Pretty sure you've heard about foreclosure, but what about pre-foreclosure? I wanted to talk about that today because we are looking at pre-foreclosure properties to try to get a deal for our next investment property. So pre-foreclosure is the process that happens before foreclosure, as you might imagine, but this process starts when a borrower is delinquent on their payments to their lender, their mortgage payments for 3 months consecutively. Then what's called a default is filed by the lender, which becomes public record. So you or I could look that up online at any time. Basically, have been doing some research online to find these types of properties. And the reason why we want to reach out to them specifically is because these property owners might be more motivated to sell. So there are a number of different ways that you can buy properties that are in pre-foreclosure. One way, which you've probably heard of before, is a short sale. A short sale is when the owner owes more money than what the property is currently worth. So in a short sale, the bank or the lender may allow the property owner to sell the property for less than the money that they're actually owed, just to avoid the foreclosure process. The reason why the bank or the lender might allow the property owner to do that is because the foreclosure process takes a really long time sometimes, and they actually, don't want to wait that long, number one. And number two, if they do go through the whole process and they get to the foreclosure auction, and nobody buys the property, then they're going to become property owners themselves. So the lender actually takes back control of the property. They're the owners, and then they have to be owners and property managers, which the lenders really don't want to do. They just want to be lenders. So if they can avoid that, they want to. If you see advertised online anything that says subject to third-party approval, it's talking about a short sale. So usually short sales, they are represented by real estate agents and are publicly listed on the MLS and other home search sites online. And the process is pretty similar to a regular home purchase process in that you can do an inspection of the property. You are working, the property owner is involved, but they do have to get the purchase price approved by the lender, since the lender has a certain threshold that they're not willing to go below. So the difference here is that a lot of times the owner actually has to submit a lot of paperwork to the lender. It does usually take longer than a typical home sale or a home purchase because there's a third party that's involved. But besides that, it could be a good option. You might be able to get a good deal that way. But when things are listed publicly, like on the MLS and on the home search sites, as many short sales are, there is more competition. So what we're really trying to focus on isn't short sales, it's actually just people who have fallen behind on their payments, where a default has been filed, but where it's not a short sale scenario. So basically, they've fallen behind on their payments, but they don't owe more than what the house or the property is worth. The reason why we want to reach out to these people is because a third party is not involved, so we don't have to get approval from the lender on the purchase price, which is great. It should be quicker and easier, faster, just to work with these property owners directly. And our thought is that they probably are going to be more motivated to sell because they just want to get out of a jam. So this would be the best case scenario, a win-win situation where us as investors, we get a good deal, and also we're able to help people avoid foreclosure. A reason why we want to actually buy properties in the pre-foreclosure stage versus the foreclosure stage at this point in our investment career is because it can be a little bit less risky. So obviously every single scenario is, individual, and it's specific to what's going on in that particular property. But the difference, like I mentioned earlier, is that for pre-foreclosure properties, you can arrange to do inspections, so you can kind of get an idea of what you're getting yourself into before you buy it. Whereas when you're buying something at a foreclosure auction, you're buying it sight unseen. Sometimes, maybe you could do a drive-by, you could see what the outside looks like, but if you actually step foot on the property, you will be trespassing. You don't have access to get inside, so there's no real way of telling what's going on behind those closed doors. So in the pre-foreclosure phase, if you're working with the seller directly, or if you're working with a real estate agent, brokering a short sale arrangement, you can oftentimes do an inspection, even if it's for informational purposes only. And this is really important to us at this phase in the game because we're just getting our feet wet and we want to get an idea of what we're getting ourselves into. So we want to be able to get into the properties, take a look around, see what kind of work needs to be done, and then make an informed decision on, you know, whatever price we're offering, what we want to buy it for, to still make a profit, since as investors, the numbers are the most important when it comes down to it. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that when you're buying a property at a foreclosure auction, not only do you miss out on the inspection opportunity, but you also are buying the property subject to any other liens that are on it, which could mean, you know, if they owe back taxes, sewer taxes, land taxes, or maybe if they did some construction and they were working, you know, with a contractor and they owe them money. Oftentimes people who buy property in foreclosure, they don't know what other liens are attached to the property, and that comes as a pretty big and unpleasant surprise once they actually, you know, sign on the dotted line and buy it. So that's why at this point we're just interested. Our next step is to reach out to these property owners that are in pre-foreclosure, not necessarily in a short sale scenario, because we hope that they're motivated and that we'll be able to get a good deal while also helping them get out of a jam.